Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick intro to this video, which actually I posted about 8 months ago when I had Dr. Martin on our podcast. Andrea calls herself a Galactic Envoy from the Pleiades, the planet Era, and now I've heard of several people coming out and talking about life on this planet, that they are from the same place. Everything seems to match up, and I really liked her kind of down-to-earth approach, her sense of humor. So I decided I would repost this and actually list out some of the timestamps where you can go down in the description box, not to see what's happening here, on Earth, or her description of things, because there's this program, the Galactic Envoy program, where a lot of beings, a lot of souls, a lot of whatever you want to call them, people came here, either incarnated here or did something to help us in these dark times. And it's been a fight. It's been a fight for them too, not just us. So they're not doing so great. But now things are changing. You can feel it in the air. I think I can, certainly. But she has some really interesting things to say about life on her homeworld, especially, which I like basic stuff, like what do you guys eat? Do you take showers? Do you have cities like we do? How does that work? And I think her answers provide a lot of insight into what's coming for us, what we can be creating, because as she said, and as I know from my work, all of the technologies that are needed to create these advanced societies, peaceful societies, are here on Earth. And they will be released soon. Everything is in progress. In the meantime, it's a cool video. So, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, just look at the times and check out some of the pieces of it. But the bottom line is, I think it's really all about consciousness. We are all kind of one spirit, different fractals of, or souls of Source, God, the unified field, whatever you want to call it. So it's really, we're entering a new time. I think that great future is coming. She puts out a lot of good stuff. So enjoy the video. Feel free to comment, and talk to you later. She calls herself a Galactic Envoy, which is is one of the millions here on Earth who signed up for a program to help humanity make it through this great shift, or end times, or as I think of them, as the beginning times. I want to preface Andrea's talk with and with a few facts, and her existence with a few facts. First, that many people, including government officials and some of Freedom Hub's previous guests, confirm that we are not alone, and that our government in particular has been interacting with races from other star systems. Not many, but some, by the way, look identical to us. And President Obama acknowledges, President Trump has acknowledged, and I recommend you watch a short video by Robert Dean, a former NATO intelligence analyst who sums it up really well. It's only 5 minutes. And a recent interview with Chris Bledsoe on News Nation, and I'm going to put links in the chat. Both are very compelling, high-level testimonials. Second, so much of what we've been taught and told by our official sources, our institutions and authorities, has been flat out false. Much of the foundational knowledge and beliefs we thought were true are not. And of course, the corollary to this is we really don't know much of anything, do we? I personally believe we're all individuated parts of this infinite source intelligence we call God or Creator, and what physicists call the unified field, interpreting and experiencing life through our own unique lenses and feeding it back into the collective and into Source. What I've learned in my lifetime, especially after seeing all of the lies and deceptions, is not to believe anything I've read or heard, but only believe things that I've really experienced myself or have personally, through my personal connection with the divine, tells me are true. And even that may change as I learn or experience more. So when I heard Dr. Martin, Andrea, on a podcast saying she volunteered as part of this galactic program to help humanity and Earth, I was really impressed. I said, it was nice to hear that we were on somebody's radar, basically, and I guess God's radar, I suppose, and as deserving a helping hand. So I reached out to her to bring her onto the show, and we spoke and had some good conversations. So today, let's all enter into a state of receptivity. You don't have to believe what you hear, but do see Dr. Martin and everyone here, everyone around you, as another facet of the divine, with their own unique story to share. And so Dr. Martin, welcome. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. No, I think that was pretty much rock and roll there. And that's sort of, I think, the galactic perspective generally, that people need to find the truth within themselves. And one of the biggest hurdles that the benevolent galactics are noticing is that there is a desire for many people to sort of abandon their own purse capacity and their own ability to discern and their own, as you had just mentioned, way to find the truth, how to negotiate this in their own minds and in their own beingness. And they tend to sort of gravitate towards gurus or celebrities. And I've noticed, because I work within the Galactic Starseed Envoy community, that there's almost a new religion that's sort of emanating from people who actually follow, I guess, people like us, right? But sort of spout it like scripture, and that's disturbing, I guess, for me particularly, and for many of the galactics. But I suppose, like a start, maybe would you be interested in to know where I come from, my consciousness? You know, so, my consciousness. So I'm what they call a walk-in, which is not a whole lot of difference, I always say, between walk-ins and the starseed or envoy, which the starseed or envoy actually was put into stasis, their consciousness. So generally they'd be on a ship, some could be on a planet, but there are different ways in which the stasis extraction of the consciousness happens. Mine actually occurred on an intergalactic confederation ship. And you're put into stasis and your consciousness is removed from your body, your real body, and it's inserted into either a forming earth body inside a woman, or as in my case, the baby was already born and its consciousness sort of gets flipped or swapped out to a different consciousness. Is there any real sort of telltale or lingering differences between a walk-in and a starseed? Not necessarily, because you're basically dealing with the same thing, where you have a consciousness that is, as far as this planet is concerned, extraterrestrial, being inserted into a Terran form. For extraterrestrials, we don't consider our bodies as anything really tangible. I suppose you could use that as a term. We swap out of bodies like you're changing clothes, even though we still have a sense of respect, obviously, in caring for the body as you would care for your vehicle. So you take your car for oil changes and all those kinds of things. We would do the same for our bodies, where you want to maintain health and eating the right foods. I guess it's huge. Obviously, on this planet, it's that's a huge challenge, but you do the best you can. But we don't see death the way. And this is grand, because Jim, you mentioned that everything that the Terrans, that's what we call Earthlings here on this planet, are told and are continually told is, in our opinion, an illusion. So we don't see death the same way. Your consciousness persists. So if this body were to be destroyed for some reason, my consciousness, knock on wood, would be then seized by my colleagues on a ship and put into my original body, or into another clone body if they had something like that. So I was born I guess this would be the difference for a walk-in versus a star seed. A star seed would be born here on Earth, but I was actually born on Era in the Pleiades. And then my consciousness was inserted to an already born 2-year-old Earth body. I remember my family. I have a mom and dad who's still alive on Era. I have an older brother. He's at least 16 years older than me. His name is Kyle. And I remember my childhood there. It's, you know, it's wrong to say that all extraterrestrials or all Pleiadian childhoods are idyllic. They're not. That's incorrect. Mine happened to be very, very well put together. And we lived very rural and very simple. I think people have a concept of off-planet humanoids. I'm just going to stick with, I'm not going to get into a lot of the other, I'm only going to stick with my race, the hell. You can live a very intergalactic, exciting life if you so choose. A lot of people join military organizations, or they might become a worker on a sort of a ships or industries that do interstellar commerce. Yeah, that's definitely a reality. But for many people in my community, and you might want to call it a town, we live far outside of the city in a very rural environment. It's very idyllic. We don't have the same kinds of pest problems that you have here because we're not on YouTube, so I can explain. I'm free to talk. Great. This is like kind of weird. So our planet was terraformed many millennia ago, many millions of years ago. The problems that exist on Earth, and like I always said, this is just a perspective from a Pleiadian. This is not necessarily 100% accurate or what have you, but what I've been told is that the diseases that you have on this planet, the pest problems that you have on this planet, all of the natural imbalances that you have on this planet are actually inorganic, and they were formed. So you have headbutting between the animal species, including the humanoids on this planet, with the vegetal systems, and the natural flow of this planet has all been usurped and basically climate changed or manipulated by your corporations that rule this planet. Earth has been under domination, and it is basically the property, the crust is basically the property of extraterrestrial beings. What has happened now is this union between these extraterrestrial beings, the people who already know the reptilians and the Nebu Greys, the Draco, the Anunnaki. They had all throughout history of this planet formed alliances with certain Terran lineages. These alliances allowed for the occupation of this crust on this planet. Not so much inner Earth, although they were occupied later on. We don't want to get into long history. That's lessons. So the Earth Terrans, who are largely from Mars, by the way, were genetically manipulated and crafted to be a slave race, so property of these, we might kind of call regressive extraterrestrials. What we see now on this planet is the residual last stand of the Terran corporations, who are interested in maintaining their rule over this planet, which is now crumbling before them. Sadly, over the millennia, the true humanoids on this planet, the Earth, the Terrans, have been chemically, genetically, frequency, I don't know what to add here, psychologically manipulated to a very unfortunate point in their stagnated evolution, right? For the majority of people, particularly if you're from Europe, West, even Asia, anywhere really, you've been through this psychological manipulation. Everyone on this planet has been through poisoning, and everyone on this planet has been through the frequency field that has been bombarding this planet with mind control frequencies for decades that not only messed up our DNA, we'll have distorted DNA, but also impeded physically and genetically the Terrans' ability to telepath, because that's the last thing the Cabal wanted. So my race, the Pleiadians, have over the thousands of years attempted to sort of ameliorate some of the pain and suffering on this planet. So we have direct contact with indigenous people who, if you look at pretty much, the Australian Aboriginals, you have the ones from New Zealand, you have all, of course, the North and South American indigenous people. They all say, well, we're from the Pleiades, and they're correct. So we've been here assisting these races, and of course our brothers and sisters from the indigenous peoples, who actually are almost direct descendants of a Pleiadian indigenous, who are very similar to what you would see in North and South American Native American populations. So we brought them food and different things, helped to sort of re-educate them in terms of natural medicines and how to sort of survive on this slave planet. So that is where we are on Earth right now, where the situation became very dire after the release of the atomic bomb. Some could argue, I suppose, why did the extraterrestrials even allow that to happen? I don't know. I don't. But ever since then, there's been sort of increased interest from your other star races to actively intervene in this sort of occupation of the planet. And some folks will say now that there won't be another nuclear event. I'm not 100% sure about that. Yes, over the past decades, nearly all nuclear tests have been stopped by military organizations upstairs. Some of the Galactic Federation, different federations would send down extraterrestrials to stop these nuclear tests. Will they stop them now? They say they will. All right, so that gives people a little bit of and here's why I kind of am on the fence on this issue, is because most likely they'd stop a catastrophic one. That is what I've been told, that containment is their main goal right now. But would they stop sort of lower level nuclear events that could, in a way, allow humanity to sort of be shock and awed into accepting the fact that this planet needs assistance? We are at a point now in the development of Earth, which is what the starseeds and individuals like yourselves and your viewers are here to do, which is sort of is to awaken, is to educate the sleeping masses on this planet. My role here as a Pleiadian spy, which I was doing ever since I was probably 5 years old or so, I would be taken up to ships or bilocated to meet with extraterrestrials. My job was to relate back to them what I was experiencing here deep in the trenches. And then that is what the starseeds were placed here to do. They are the extraterrestrial consciousness seeded into the Earth societies, living an Earth existence undercover as spies in order to infiltrate and crack from within the regressive hold, the socio-political regressive hold on the species that exist on this planet. I'll leave that up to the viewers and to say how successful we were in that. We've unfortunately lost the majority of our starseed envoy combatants, either through them getting assimilated into the system, through addiction issues, through suicides, things like that, or just through natural death processes. We have since regained much control over our ground troops. We've since cleaned up rogue factions of extraterrestrial benevolent groups, which have, people ask, why is this taking so long? Well, we're roughly now about 20 years behind where we should have been because of these rogue factions, which had formed sort of cursory alliances with the mafia factions that run this planet, that also run other planets. So it's important for people to understand that this corporate dark fleet, cabal, black space programs, these are intergalactic mafias that exist and trade legal and illegal things. And I guess since we're safe here, I can say what we're trading. I always have to be careful on YouTube. So, so they traded desirables upstairs. The legal things they traded were metals and other mining devices. They also traded different kinds of goods. That's all legal. The illegal trade that was allowed to occur off of this planet involved humans for slave and also human body products. I think probably most of viewers know what they are. Actual meat, right? Human meat, and also things like adrenochrome. Humans were traded live as chattel, and this is illegal as well, for mining, slave. There's a lot of like slave planets where mining is done. They were provided for that. Humans were trained through the MK Ultra, MyLab program, secret space program, Solar Warden, it's your 20 and backs. Humans were seized, abducted, and trained as super soldiers. These super soldiers were then sold out or loaned out to other space races and species to be used in their military pursuits, nefarious or benevolent. And folks are probably very familiar with some of the stories that you probably hear on the internet for people who were working in both benevolent and non-benevolent factions here, particularly the war in Mars. The Dark Fleet used many Terrans as enemy combatants. So humans were also sold to different societies in space, generally the Greys, Tall Greys, the Mitra, the Draco, for open experimentation. This is also what you would have seen with the cattle horse mutilations that happened in this that were allowed to happen. Those were actually alliances between our dark military and extraterrestrial groups that were just curious about doing these kinds of experimentations. So we were looking at now probably millions, I'm being conservative, of Terrans who were sold off as resources for really horrific situations. Some of these horrific situations also happened on this planet in the dumps. So you'd have the agents, corporations, and I can name them, I suppose, right? Is it okay to name? Can I name? Raytheon, Lockheed, or some of the other ones. TRW. They're now defunct. I believe Digital was highly involved as well with with a sort of an alliance with Raytheon. So these corporations, aerospace, chemical corporations, and this is what I mean by when I say corporations. So this planet is under the control of interstellar corporations. So these are the ones I had just mentioned are interstellar. So your aerospace industries, your biochemical industries, your chemical industries, your fossil fuel industries, your banking industries, all of these are the corporations, the dark organizations, the Dark Fleet. That is their military wing, the Cabal. That is what owns the crust on this planet. Now, we've taken away all of their ET contacts. That has actually been done. And now we're just left with sort of a severed head of the Cabal. It's important to understand, too, that some of the nefarious operations that this beast does are interdimensional. So even though we've taken away physically in the 4D, the Draco and also the Greys, and also some of the other nefarious tall whites, different types of extraterrestrial races that had made alliances with this intergalactic, mafia organization, they are still able to access operations from 5 and 6 density that they can impact us down here with. So we are not only dealing with 4D boots on the ground warfare, we're also dealing with an interdimensional warfare that the benevolent extraterrestrials are assisting us with, including many of the envoys that are operating here on Earth as well. So that is where we stand. I don't know if anybody has anything else they'd like me to kind of like lean into, or I mean, there's just so many directions we can.
Well, why don't you just for go back to your home world for a minute
Sure.
and give us a little more of a taste of what life is like, or what and if, yeah, I don't know what's going on with my microphone. Someone said it was still messed up, but how long do you guys live? Healthcare. I mean, some of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is, I think that the thing that depresses me the most, and is the saddest part, is that's the way they should be living here on Earth. Because all of the issues not all, I mean, but the majority of the issues on this planet are all imposed. So they're all artificial. So I don't live in a city. The cities are massive where I come from. They're very futuristic, tall spires.
What's massive? Millions of people? Millions of...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We have very, very tall, if you think Dubai, something like that, that is what our cities look like. But they're generally, the buildings are made out of a substance that's like, it looks white. It looks like a porcelain. We have also glass buildings, but they're not glass, obviously. The materials that we use are consciousness, metametals, things like that. So the lighting in the buildings actually emanates from the walls. And I'm going to tell you, we have all this stuff here. So it's everything. So to be fair, the Earth population is, if we were to release all this tech and remove the Cabal right now, would launch Earth 1,500 years into the future. And this came from Colonel Ware. I was talking to a friend of mine, Frank Chili. And so technically, the Earth, which is 4D, is era. Your elites, your dark military, so all of the benevolent technology that we use for primarily benevolent, beneficial, makes life a little easier, everyday life, has been weaponized here. But Earth itself technically exists 1,500 years beyond what you see in front of you now, which is parallel to the Pleiadian that we live on era. Yeah, so the cities are quite large. We don't have any real traffic. Everything is done through what humans would know as anti-gravity or electrogravitic propulsion. So we also have a type of material that is itself like anti-gravity. Our bathroom systems, our plumbing systems, they provide water, they provide shower materials, those kinds of things. So when we have waste that comes from there, is basically through quantum mechanics and electromagnetic field operations, is broken down to its atomic particles and just turned into ether, basically. The same goes for when we pass away. Our bodies are just recycled into. So there's no trash per se. Yes, we make trash, but what we do to our trash is basically alchemize or atomize it and turn it into just neutral ether. That's what happens in our toilet system. So the toilets look the same. I know people I know, but you would know what it is if you saw it. And I don't think there's a whole lot you can do with that. That's how that works. Same thing with our shower systems. We don't use soap, which is probably like, I don't use soap. Soap is actually bad for you, so we don't use soap. And we have a type of water-based. It's sinus, so it's pH balanced to your skin, and it has fragrances and those kinds of things that we enjoy, and it cleans your skin without destroying the bacterial balance. So what happens on Earth is that when you wash yourself, you're basically stripping your skin of everything, which you don't want to do. So we don't actually do that. So we're actually cleaner than Earth people. And if you meet us, you'll notice a sensation of like we just stepped out of the shower kind of thing. This is a very clean feeling to our body structure. Our skin is not, I mean, it's the same as we are humans. There is not a lot. It's just some genetic differences. But we are humans. We can interbreed with humans. Our skin is very smooth. The men don't grow beards. It's just a genetic thing. We don't have very much body hair. And a lot of the issues that you would notice with our skin and just with the development of the body itself on our planet has not been interfered with. So what you're seeing as imperfections, what you see as fingerprints, what you see as, your skin, like my skin's aging now, all these kinds of things. These are not natural and they shouldn't happen. So for age, people have acne and stuff. That's all fake. That's all just imposed on from poisonings. Your body is constantly trying to detox. We don't have that problem because it's not a good idea to do that. You don't want to poison your bodies. But it was done on Earth, obviously, to maintain control, to keep people sick, all those kinds of things. So the Terrans actually should have an 800-year lifespan, which is actually longer than ours. We only live 300 to 500 years. Earth humans live longer. Yeah, I don't know what I mean.
How about yoga? You guys have like yoga,
Yeah,
martial arts, sports?
yeah, we do. Yep. That's part of our culture. Yep. So we do have something like a yoga where you are doing movements with your body. So we're very conscious of the way we use our bodies, the way we move our bodies. You'll probably notice that if somebody's in a hell star seed, you'll notice that they're very graceful, male or female. They have a way that they move, which is sort of very, very almost like Tai Chi. So that's just part of the genetic signature that's manifesting in the human form from the DNA imprint of the consciousness of the Pleiadian starseed. We love music. We love 80s music. We love Earth. We're very actually the Ahel are very curious and fascinated in a very benevolent, adoring way of Earth cultures. So it's very, very popular. Anything Earth related is actually very popular. And many Ahel Pleiadians are actively trying to telepath, to reach out using quantum entanglement with Earth beings, which is why a lot of people say, well, how come everybody's talking to Pleiadians? That's why. Now you know. They can't wait to talk to you. A high number of starseeds actually are from our system, whether the Tal or the Ahel, because we're just really tired that our brothers and sisters who have been, I'm going to say allowed. We've felt a deep pain for what's been happening on this planet for millennia through our own generations on our planet, but nothing was really done. And we didn't have the military, and we still, the Ahel alone by themselves would not have the military punch to take out what was happening on this planet. But as far as, so we have marriage ceremonies, we have holidays, we have birthday celebrations. We have coming of age celebrations as well. Yeah.
And food? What kind of foods?
Yeah. So our
Similar?
food, we don't have refrigeration. So if you walk into an ale house, you won't see refrigeration. We also have machines that can create food.
Star Trek.
Yeah, that's where Star Trek got a lot of. that's where Gene Roddenberry was inserted with a lot of. He was channeling for a lot of that. So they're called replicators. We do grow our food mostly through a type of hydroponic system in buildings. So it's very automated, and we don't eat meat. There are some that will use fish, but we don't eat any meat. We don't use any animal products on our planet at all. Now there are groups like Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti. They do use, and the Tal do use animal products. Some eat meat, some don't. Some use dairy. We don't use any of that stuff. We're largely grains, breads. We do make desserts and things like that. I remember a candy that's like a French cream. It had an orange mango flavor. So we do fruit juices. We do jams. We don't use sugar, but we use sugars produced from fruits and plants similar to sugar. So we do also extract that kind of thing. We extract healing from plants as well. We make something like a Bach flower remedy that people will sort of do a tea ritual with. Sometimes they'll go into crystal healing centers where there'll be many people there who are doing this intentional healing. The Bach flower remedies that we use and that we drink it with a very conscious intent to embody on a cellular level whatever we're trying to get out of this particular flower remedy. It's not for major ailments, which we generally don't have, although that can happen. It's more to set off a sense of feeling out of alignment. So people are kind of like Chinese medicine, where you're trying to kind of get back into the stream of things. That kind of. So yeah, it's we have fruits. One of Ika's favorite foods is peaches. We have like an avocado melon thing that actually provides all the nutrition that you need. So when people go on long space journeys, we make like these shakes out of different fruits and things like that. Yeah, it's nuts. We have nuts. We have all the different grains that you have. In fact, the stuff you see on Earth, we have on our planet. The fruits and vegetables and grains come from other planets, and they were brought here to Earth.
So when you go on a little vacation, is that going to, like, we might go to the beach? Are you going to Alpha Centauri, or how does that work?
You can. I personally didn't do that. Where I come from in our place, we don't really move a whole lot. So our planet itself is like Earth in the sense that we have climate zones. So there are temperate zones on the planet. I come from a more temperate zone where we have snow on the mountains and it looks kind of like a fjord. We do have mild winters, so there's that. There's snow and things like that. But then there's other sections of the planet that are more tropical. So you might want to think of something like Greece, where we have things like palm trees and tropical, very, very. The best way I can describe it would be like it would look like Greece. You know, these white buildings, beautiful open concept, very much in tune with nature, interacting with the oceans and the lakes wherever you are. Yeah, there you can, and there is that interstellar travel to go to other places like, you know, Sirius or Venus or what have you, for business as well as recreation. But we do a lot of recreation just at home. We have boats that we use solely for recreation, and they're not anti-gravity. They're just, we want to float on the water and have that sensation. Yeah, there's that. Well, Ika loves to do that. Ika's my husband, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, wait, maybe you could explain, because I enjoyed hearing you say you originally, when you volunteered, there was a call to volunteer for this mission, right? To be an envoy.
Yeah.
And your husband wasn't too happy about that.
No, well, he knew how bad it was going to be, because basically we were being sent into, without any real protection, a war zone. So it was a bad idea to be. It was kind of. I think it's going to be. I'll be honest with you, due to the very negative experiences, the massive loss of troops, the massive suffering, the interference by the regressives on this planet, the majority, I will say the majority, we have to do a study, honestly. I think we need to start breaking and just finding out just the facts of this. But the majority of the starseeds, the boots on the ground, were infiltrated by the deep state, by the Cabal. They were tortured, they were put in the MyLabs, and you name it. So he knew that this was going to be extremely difficult for me. I'm a very, and it was. I mean, it. I'll be fair. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. It pretty near broke me, and life here for me is almost unbearable. So yeah, we had a fight before we came, and he's like, "You're not going to be able to handle this," and he was right. But I said we have to do this, because if we allow Earth to be overrun by these regressive ETs, alliances with the Earth Cabal, where would we run to? Because the goal of Earth would be the Death Star, and they were going to use this planet as sort of another jumping point for a Draco Nebu, massacre, a takeover of the. So I said we weren't going to be safe ultimately. And he agreed, and he joined the Galactic Federation so that he would be my handler and follow me. So Ika is right now in Cheyenne Mountain. He's in a physical Earth, not an Earth body. He's in a hell human body. He could walk amongst you. You wouldn't notice. He's quite tall, and they're very well built. And he's got long blonde hair, but green eyes. And he could walk amongst you. He'd look like a celebrity from out in Hollywood, but definitely, he is walking amongst us now. But he works for the United States Air Force under the Special Forces ET division. Yeah, we did had a good fight. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Let me.
What I noticed there was a systematic issue with cognitive processing in the student body. So I've been teaching there for 19 years. And I try to ask other people who are in teaching professions if they notice a similar thing that I did. And I talked to Michael Sala about this too. I said, did you notice that? When I first started teaching 19 years ago, the students were able to reasonably maintain an attention span for, say, a 45-minute class. They were able to maintain an ability to process information that was being handed out in the classroom, a lecture type setting. I'm very loose I was very loose as a professor. I was very friendly. I was the swearing professor. I tried to really create a friendly, open, I never gave tests. It was a very interactive classroom environment. But initially, the students would be able to read material, come into the classes that we're meeting at and share views, interact, a normal sort of, you would expect.
What subject?
I changed subjects many times. I am actually a PhD in Irish studies, literature, and history. So I initially taught Irish studies. I then ended up at Worcester State. That was at Anna Maria. I did teach some Irish studies initially at Worcester State, but it began as the years progressed, which many other professors noticed as well, that the students were unable to process any of the material. And to be fair, Irish studies in and of itself is not a difficult subject to handle. We're not teaching algebra, but they were, I think initially a lot of the professors, including myself, during those early years, as we didn't in fact notice the students losing the ability to cognitively process and hold on to information and to even process language. Initially, we assumed it was us, and maybe we weren't teaching right. It says, I must be a terrible teacher. Nothing's getting across. So we would really start to pull back, and I mean seriously dumb stuff down. I ended up maybe teaching, we teach from maybe 3 books plus movies in a semester to teaching to 1 or 2 books, bringing it way down. And I noticed that as I dumb down the subject matter and really slow down how I was teaching, things didn't get any better. Excuse me. In fact, they got worse. So a lot of us would try maybe it's just the subject, So a lot of us would switch subjects, try to be a little more hip, something like that. And nothing was working. I finally pretty much gave up and tried to have it where the class itself would pick the subject. So each student would create their own topic that they were passionate about, and share that through conversations and movies, whatever, with the entire class. Nothing worked. So it wasn't until I say within the past couple of years that I realized that there is something actually going on that's within the human beings on this planet. The conversation that we're having right now is impossible. There's
Social media, EMFs, all that stuff.
I think it is the cell phones and the social media, but I strongly suspect there's something biological going on as well. They can't even talk amongst themselves. Some can. Now there would be, I say 10% of the student body every class that noticed this, and they call the other students zombies, and they're like, "We're regressing." I'm like, "Oh, I think we are." There was always that, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 students that were normal and were able to hold conversations and were noticing what was going on. But I suspect there's something going on. Yeah.
When you talk about your consciousness was placed in the child, was that a choice that you made? And what do you think of soul? Do you interchange that with, because I understand as a spiritual being, I understand my true nature is soul, which is consciousness. Is it the same thing? And did you choose that?
I always treat talks of souls and consciousness. Now, consciousness is actually a tangible electromagnetic field. You can take consciousness, and this is what the bad guys do. So all of our consciousness, you can actually contain using electromagnetic voltages. You can actually hold them and use them. So you can actually entrap somebody's consciousness. And the bad guys do this. They can put your consciousness into other bodies. They can fracture a consciousness. And that's what you're seeing in the My Labs. They put it in all different bodies. They can lock your consciousness into a ship. So your consciousness can actually be it is actually an electromagnetic field that can be manipulated and held. That's actually how star seeding works. So as far as the religious, I call it the religious or philosophy aspect of soul consciousness, I always just say, well, ET races have religions or belief systems as well. And in our religion and belief system on the Pleiades, we see a consciousness as a fractal of a source, higher consciousness field. So Ika, in our belief, in our religious system, Ika and I are basically the same soul. We are a soul fracture. In many matings, so we mate very consciously and very deliberately when we marry or mate and procreate. On Era, it is extremely specific. We don't do any kind. Well, everybody, people have free will. I'm just talking about it sort of in an overarching framework. So, Ika and I, before we incarnated on Era again, we had already made a soul contract in our belief religion systems. That we would connect, marry, and do all this project that we are doing now. We have many lifetimes together. So our relationship is not only telepathic, but it's interdimensional. So Ika and I experience each other through many dimensions. We have actually already have a child. His name is Daniel. We gave him an Earth name. So we actually can already together interact with our child, with this baby that we haven't had yet. So we can go back in time because there's no time. We experience our life together in Egypt. We experience our life together in Atlantis. So we don't have time, life understanding the way people have been lied to on Earth. So we experience lifetimes without any real separation. As far as the soul is concerned, that's the best. I don't know if you have other questions about that. That's the best I can give you as far as the way we believe it to be on our planet.
Okay, and then my other question was, did you consciously choose to come to Earth, and then what happened to the consciousness of the child that was already in that body?
Yeah. So yes, because I was in a physical body when I chose to do the envoy, to do the walk-in. So I went through a massive training procedure. Most of it was done on the Intergalactic Confederation ships. The last thing I remember before they pulled my consciousness out. So when they pull it out, they don't do it through torture like the bad guys do. So, we're put into stasis and the consciousness is taken because your body goes into the stasis state and the consciousness is pulled. The consciousness is pulled. When they, not me, but when the Intergalactic Confederation officials found a genetic match here on Earth, and this is for all the star seeds, it isn't just something that happens to walk-ins. They have to find a specific genetic signature that can hold an extraterrestrial consciousness. And that can vary by the density of the consciousness being inserted. So it's different it's different and easier for a 4D consciousness to get inserted versus Arcturian, versus a mantid, versus a benevolent gray, versus some of those consciousnesses. It's a little more challenging. So we found so for my parents, we have a mixture of what you would call psychic abilities in my mother's line, And then you have a mixture of Native American, indigenous, very heavily, obviously, ET signature in their genetics. So that would be my mother and father when that occurred. So my mother did have a miscarriage, which was an extraterrestrial consciousness that didn't sit, it didn't seed properly. So they had to do a manipulation in order for her to actually have a body. She was 41 when I was born, and she didn't think she wasn't really able to carry babies very well. So they had to intervene and manipulate that space for this baby to actually form in there. The consciousness that formed that child stayed with that body until it was around 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That consciousness was not able to resonate properly. And it began to get sick. It began to not be able to hold its space in that body. This is the time. So that thing left, that being left, it returned to source. And that was the time where they slipped my consciousness in. And I remember walking down, when it was time, I walked down and other people actually saw the same ship. They were with the same group I was with. And they remember, that these white hallways on the ship, very high, organic shaped windows, very, very lyrical flow on the ship. I remember entering something that looked like a med bed, and that was it. And then I remember waking up here in a state of extreme distress.
Yeah.
Hey, when you go back, I mean, are they going to put you back in that same body in that ship, or return you home, or how does that work at the end of your mission or death or whatever?
Yes. So for all of the star seeds, yes, you have a choice, of course, right? Some people will go back to source. They're like, I'm done. I know a lot of star seeds who are just so traumatized right now. They're like, no, I'm never going to incarnate again. I don't never want to incarnate again. So they'll go back to source if they want. Like I said, the rest of us who are working on these missions will go back to our bodies. So Earth is not unique from other planetary systems. So everybody is a visitor. Everybody is an extraterrestrial. We don't use the word extraterrestrial. So Earth has actually been inhabited for millions of years. It's an unstable planet. The majority of the Earth beings that you see here now were refugees from Mars. But Earth has had habitation on this planet. So even the Earthlings themselves are extraterrestrial. The animals are extraterrestrial. The plants are extraterrestrial. Everything was seeded onto this planet because Earth was not habitable for as any planet when it's forming. So the question of the Big Bang, of course, is not real. There was no Big Bang. How old is the universe? That's a good question because there's no such thing as time once you get into space. But there was a variety of extraterrestrial beings inhabiting Earth before one of the end times, which was Atlantis, when it was made almost uninhabitable. So Earth was thrown back into the Stone Age. You did have sort of spots of survivors, animals, plants, and humanoids. As to what would happen to extraterrestrials. So we actually do die. Our lifespan, we do age regress and maintain the cellular structures of our bodies, which you actually can do on Earth too. They just don't let you. But we don't have the senescence that is a false senescence that is imposed upon the Terrans here on Earth. But we do at some point age. We can no longer regress or maintain the cellular structures of our bodies, which can happen anywhere between 300 to 500 years for the Hell Pleiadians, at which point we die. So my past lives and Ika past lives, we have died and we're born again. So I've been through many galactic wars myself. And many starseeds remember the war on Mars. The war on Mars was still going on till around 2020, 2021. So that's actually been recent, but Mars itself was so destroyed. They had, nuclear weapons. We used DEW type weapons, energy weapons. It was such a brutal war that the atmosphere was destroyed on Mars. And Mars is now being terraformed. So the original Mars, there actually are humans. There are Earth humans on Mars, living on Mars. There are Earth humans living all over the gap, all over it. So, yeah, the war on Mars has been going on for quite some time. Many of the indigenous races there, which are insectoid, mantoids, things like that, mantids, they survived. They were living underground. There are humans as well living on Mars that survived there as well, fighting the wars to liberate Mars from the Dark Fleet, basically. So yeah, many of the Martians fled to Earth. Yeah.
So what type of systems are you guys using to travel the universe and travel to this Earth? Is it anti-gravity? Are you using wormholes? Is it a Stargate system that you're using in order to make it to different planets and to different systems?
We use the same exact system that the Earth uses. Same exact technology, pretty much, that your overlords use. There are portals and stargates all over the planet that they're using. There are jump gates all over your planet that they're using. So only the chattel Earth people are living in the Stone Age, because your overlords are living as we are on the Pleiades, basically.
Who are the overlords that you're talking about? Because one of the things I'm concerned about is that my estimation is like 2.5, 3.5 million people have been abducted. Who's doing the abductions? Who's doing these abductions and then impregnating these women that are abducted?
There you go. It's this corporation. It's this cabal. People call it all different names. It's the Dark Fleet. That's their military wing. The Nazis. You have civilizations of Nazis living in the Kuiper Belt, on Ceres, on asteroids. So the cabal, the corporations that run this planet, your Roth, I can say it on here, Rothschilds, you name it, those kinds of people. Your fake Rockefellers, there's all these different names. Many of the hidden, I don't want to get you guys in too much trouble. So it's the elites, it's the cabal, it's the creators of the Matrix.
You don't have to worry about getting us in trouble. I've already been in trouble, so don't worry about it.
Well, I don't want them to literally attack each one of you. That's kind of what I'm saying. Because they're falling right now and they're hitting people bad. So it's the banking systems, the banking elites, but there is sort of a hidden in plain sight genetic line of humanoids on this planet. The royal family, the Bushes. That is your master. So they maintain the humans on this planet as serfs, as chattel, as things that they use, as things that they harvest from. So all of the banking systems, all of those things are fake, and they're just used as a control mechanism. All of your religions are used as a control mechanism. All of the brainwashing, whether literally through chemicals or frequencies or just the psychological mind control that's been done through school systems. Your school systems are all there as a mind control system. It's basically a Hunger Games with Clockwork Orange. Matrix. Yes, they are the ones. Your military, the dark military, which is basically the military. All of your aerospace corporations, all of your chem corporations, all of your big pharma corporations. These are all the ones that are picking up people and either using them in the my labs. Or what I was using the my labs, that they try to weaponize my abilities. I have psi abilities that they try to weaponize. They actually maintain large breeding colonies in these dumbs where they have humans that are used for breeding purposes only. They have stasis pods in there. They have incubation pods in there. They do all kinds of grotesque experiments, genetic experiments, horrific torture, vivisection. All of that is done by them.
Some closing remarks. What do you recommend that us not mere mortals, us Terrans, or us here in Terran form right now, what are the things we should be doing, or, to help really, as I said, I think, or maybe not, I feel that consciousness, everything is people go, oh, what's the future like? And I always say the future is what you imagine it to be. It's really up to us as a source creator, right? To pick that. Is it going to go well? Is it going to be like crappy? And where do you focus your attention? Is that how you guys look at it? And how would you wrap this up?
Yeah. So one, we've cleaned up the bad guys upstairs, and that is all the GFW ships as well. So that,
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Can I jump back a second? Because a lot of people don't know, probably just heard Galactic Federation for the first time.
So the GFW is a military organization. They're not all military, but they have the firepower, right? They are part military, and they're the ones that are in pretty much the front lines to removing the Cabal here. Okay. So they had made some deals with them. That's all done. You can watch Michael Sala to learn more about what happened as far as that was concerned. So we are now in phase 2, where finally we can move forward with the military liberation of this planet without any sort of negative interference of maintaining, the carrot dangle. Good things are coming. Good things are coming, and they're never coming, right? So that was them. So now we are actually going to move forward. So what first thing for Terrans to understand is that they are also a member of the universe. They're not separate. We are all visitors. It is just a race of extraterrestrial. You have amazing genetics that a lot of extraterrestrials are eager to enjoy and use, and it's through love, right? There is definitely there are many extraterrestrials that are eager to begin interacting with us. They couldn't before because it was not allowed on a prison planet like this, so they would have been killed. So Terrans have to stop seeing themselves as something different or bad or lacking. That if you hear that, you have to raise your vibration. You have to fix yourself. That's all the bad guys. That's not to say that every single one of us on every planet anywhere in the galaxy shouldn't be trying to be a better person. That's not to say that. Yes, love exists, and yes, you want to be embodying love. But there's been a lot of psyops by the Cabal that infiltrated the New Age movement. And made it very unrealistic. The hopium, the spiritual bypassing, we just have to love our way out of this. No. So yes, hold love, but that's not. So understanding that you're not broken. Stop being small. Stop playing into all of the brainwashing that tells you to work hard. The brainwashing that tells you to fix yourself, the brainwashing that tells you to eat garbage, the brainwashing that tells you to find a guru because you're not good enough in yourself. All of that is lies. That's how they kept us contained. Understanding, and this is not ego, and this is not arrogance. Understanding that you're here for every being, every ant, every tree, every cat, every horse, every human is here for a purpose. You're all meant to be in existence to try to heal all of the negative things that happened in your life that you didn't deserve. That's very important for people to understand. All of the distortion, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the poisoning, all of the whatever. You didn't deserve it. But it's on you. And it's important that you reach out to get the assistance for those things that were very unfair on this planet. But that's how these planets are run. I think people should not be hopium optimistic, because that's just a drug and that's not good for anyone. I think they should stand completely in their own power as much as they can be and look into the future with what Jim had just mentioned. What can I do to hold this path, this track that we're on, this benevolent track that we're on, to fix our planet? Yes, we need assistance to fix our planet, and yes, that's going to come in now. I just want to offer some reprieve to folks who are, and I want to be realistic about this, struggling with health right now, struggling with finances right now, struggling with mental health right now, because it's real. There are a lot of people on this planet who need food, who need medicine, and who need love. There's a lot of you out there in very, very bad situations. And I don't want to sweep you guys under the rug because I think that's gone on for too long. Understand that your suffering was created by the Cabal because they feed off it. But we want to begin assisting in dismantling systems that are keeping you in survival and suffering. And that's where that's why we're upstairs all the time. And you need to go upstairs. If you're suffering right now, go upstairs, wherever you are, if you're homeless or what have you. You need to say, hey, this is not okay. It needs to stop and we need help. You need to ask upstairs for that. But I think it's just a matter of being prepared, not listening to the new, anything that's mainstream, because that's all a psyop. Everything mainstream is a psyop. I don't want to get you guys pulled, but I know it's not going to happen here. So that's great. Just listen to what resonates within yourself. Realize we don't need governments anymore. Realize we don't need military anymore. Realize we don't need police anymore. What we need is a global guardian of the peace for the planet Earth. You have to understand your money system must fall. You cannot have a money system. All of these things are obsolete. You just don't need them anymore. They're just brainwashing you to think that you do. So humanity itself has to walk into and embrace the 4D and maybe the 5D. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen, you know? That is definitely a possibility. But just be ready to shed, as Brandon Thomas, my friend from Expanding Reality, says, always be ready to shed that which you no longer need. And that's that's I think a way of staying in power, I guess.
Perfect. Wow, that was wonderful. Really. Thank you so much. Very enlightening talk, uplifting. I see some comments. And and it does help, I think, when we see really that, oh, this isn't my fault. You know, I'm not less of a person. I can't do this or that. Yeah, that we've been under attack for a long time. And,
Well, we're still under attack, you know.
Yeah. No,
I have
I
to be
get it.
aware, you know, I do not comply, right? You know, it really, everything would fall tomorrow if people just said, I do not comply.
Yeah. And that's what we're working on here at Freedom Hub. And do not comply. Okay.